The following message is brought to you by Mike Koplitz. He is an ordained elder in the United Methodist Church and an ordained Messianic rabbi. We reach this point in chapter 4 of Luke's Gospel, and we hear about the first struggle that he has with a demon. The Watchers described in Genesis chapter 6, who were condemned into the foundations of the earth, are believed by people in Jesus' day to be the source of the demons and unclean spirits that are mentioned in the Gospels. Let me give you a brief history of these demons because you will not hear much about them in your normal reading. Now, why do this? Okay, you have to read a book called First Enoch to get the full story about the demons. Chapter 1 through 36 of that book is called the Book of the Watchers. You can find a summary about the Watchers in Genesis chapter 6. Basically what happened were 200 angels came before the Lord and said that they wanted to go visit the earth and experience what humans experiencing. God said to the 200 angels, if they went to the earth, they would surely sin against God, and they would have to be punished for it. The 200 angels decided they could handle it, and they went to earth anyway. These 200 angels took human form. They married mortal women. The offspring of this union are called the giants or the Nephilim. People believe that Goliath, who fought David, was a descendant of these individuals. Unfortunately, the Nephilim and their offspring, they caused a lot of trouble on earth. One thing that happened is they started to kill humans and they drank the blood. This infuriated the Lord because one of the most important laws that you can find in the book of Leviticus is you're not allowed to drink blood. People believe that the soul of the person or the animal lived in the blood. For ancient people, this made sense because when a person bled out, they died. Their spirit or their soul left their body. The Watchers, the 200 angels, tried to give the humans tools to fight the Nephilim. It is believed this is where the knowledge of metallurgy came from. Of course, God knew that if the humans were to receive the concepts of metallurgy, that would eventually turn against each other. They would eventually kill each other, basically. God intervened and destroyed the Nephilim and also held the 200 angels accountable for what they did. Now, the punishment for the angels was that they were sent into the foundations of the earth. Ancient people believe that pillars, the foundations of the earth, held the earth up. It was believed in Jesus' day that the unclean spirits and demons were those 200 watchers trying to affect humanity. From time to time, they would leave the foundations of the earth and infect people. That's what is happening in this story and every narrative that talks about people being possessed by demons or unclean spirits. One of Jesus' tasks was to rid the earth of these 200 fallen angels. If you believe Satan was a fallen angel, then you actually have a base understanding of the Book of the Watchers. The leaders of the 200 angels received a sentence to hell and was transformed into Satan. Let me say it again, the leader, Azazel. That is what the Book of the Watchers talks about. I would love to give you more details about the Book of the Watchers, but that's not what we're concentrating on today. So we know what happened in the narratives when Jesus exorcises these unclean spirits, or demons, if you wish to call them that, from a man in the synagogue. What I'd like to talk about is that the miracle, or I should say because of the miracle that Jesus did, his fame spread. It was through his signs and miracles and wonders that people got to know Jesus and sought him out. Now, one thing I learned back in the 1990s when I was teaching leadership skills to a nonprofit organization was the idea that in order for the organization to survive, it needed to make a big splash in the community. The organization needed to be known for something that no one else was doing, and it was necessary for the community. Now, let's apply that to the church. If you are a member of a church, ask yourself, what does your church do for the community? For most churches, they're involved in either no community activities or a mixture of activities. The problem with not being in the community is that you will attract no one into your church because they have no idea who you are and what you stand for. It's that simple. For churches that are in multiple areas of the community, the problem is the church is not known for something special. Let me give you an example. I was appointed to a United Methodist church where the women ran a very successful thrift shop for the community. When I was there in 2010, the thrift shop generated like $60,000 in profits. Since I was new to the church, I asked the leaders of the thrift shop what happened to the profits. So they showed me a list of 40 charities that they gave money to. The church was in a small town that had problems that were not being solved by the politicians or any other group. That problem was important. You might ask what it is. Well, here it is. They had nothing for the youth to do when they went out of school at the end of the day, and especially during the summer. It was a problem for the community. Now, I'm not saying the youth of the town caused a lot of trouble, because they really didn't. What I'm saying is they needed something to keep them busy. Parents started Sunday school back in the late 1800s because they didn't know what to do with their kids on Saturday and Sunday due to the implementation of child labor laws. Therefore, you went to church on Sunday and Sunday school, and that took care of one of the 2 days. Same situation was happening in this town. Youth get restless when they have nothing to keep them busy. I was sent to this church to get a building addition built. The construction team built a 7,200 square foot facility, primarily as a giant multi-purpose room. So I said to the ladies who were running the thrift store that if they gave the 60 grand to the church only to run a youth program in the new building addition, we could solve a major problem in the community. Then the church would become well known for doing this one thing that everyone said they needed. If the church had done this, people would have come to the church because they would have known all about us and what we stood for. We would have been there to help the community. Instead, they said no can do, because they had to give their money to the 40 different charities that were on their list, because that's the way they always did it. Very few people in the community I talked to knew that the thrift shop was a part of the town's United Methodist Church. They knew that the thrift shop existed. They knew that some of the profits went to charities, but they didn't know it belonged to the United Methodist Church, even though there was a sign in the window that said that it was a part of the United Methodist Church. People just didn't know it. If the thrift store would have worked with me and created that youth program, the church would have become well known, and I strongly believe that the people would help us in the town, especially young people. Back in 2010, and it's the same today, young people want to see things improved in their own community for their children. They're not interested so much in sending money overseas as they are in spending it locally and to make things better for their kids. I'm not saying that we shouldn't send charity to other countries or to other continents. What I'm saying is that we need to become known for something. Let me give you another example that actually worked. I'd be willing to bet every one of you reading or listening to this message know about the Shriners. You know, the Shriners is a Masonic organization that dates back to dates back even longer, but I should say in the 1920s and 30s, they were about to become extinct. Their leadership understood what they needed to do. What they did is they created the Shriners Children's Hospitals. They concentrated every time they could into creating this network of hospitals that do not charge patients, and they don't charge parents, I should say, to have their children brought to the hospital to receive surgery or physical therapy the child needs. Because the Shriners became well known for their hospitals, they grew in tremendous numbers. Wonderful thing to do. They learned they needed to become known for something that nobody else was doing. Now, nowadays, the Shriners are in trouble because they're losing members because of aging, and also because they're not as well known as they used to be. 10 or so years ago, you would never have heard a commercial asking you to give money to Shriners Children's Hospital. Today, see it all the time. The Shriners had lost that which made them an elite organization. They diversified and took them out of the public eye. Because of this mistake, the Shriners have been losing membership like a barrel with a big hole in it leaking water. That's unfortunate, and I pray that the Shriners Children's Hospital never closes. 30 years ago, I sponsored a family to go to the Shriners Children's Hospital, And that young girl received such fantastic care that today you can't even tell she was ever there. If you want your church to become known in your community, you need to bring all your resources together and solve a problem that nobody else is solving, or a problem that needs help that will make you well known. Unfortunately, we live in a world where we have to do this kind of marketing. If your church could solve a problem that's been plaguing the community for some time, the community will see the church as a miracle-working church. Jesus went through the country of Galilee and Samaria, solving problems that the community could not solve. In Jesus' case, it happened to be healing people and ridding them of demons and unclean spirits. He became very well known for helping others and always being there for people. So one of the lessons of the story is that the church needs to find that one thing the community needs and solve. And most importantly, tell the community that it is being done through the faith of the people in Jesus Christ. In this way, we can say that Jesus gave a power to perform miracles just like he did. So Jesus is going to give us the miracle to solve the problem. If your church is not concentrating on one area, ask your leadership to do it and explain to them why it's so urgent. Jesus became known for miracles, and your church can also. Thank you for listening to this message. I hope it blesses you in some way. And as always, shalom.